Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Always fun to dig into some interesting conversations.
Definitely. And today we're going to be looking at a talk between Mark Cuban and Amy Klobuchar.
Yeah, a businessman and a senator talking about the American dream, tariffs, tech.
Yeah.
It's a pretty wide-ranging conversation.
It really is. And something that I found interesting right off the bat was that Mark Cuban's mom was actually a scientist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, who did some pretty groundbreaking research for breast cancer, and he attributes his, geekiness and his love of tech and everything to her.
That's pretty cool. I mean, talk about, having that inspiration close to home.
For sure, for sure. So, we're going to be diving into entrepreneurship, the American dream, and all these things with them. But what really stood out to you in the beginning part of this conversation?
Well, I mean, they both obviously have very different backgrounds. But
Mm.
one thing that they both really emphasize is the importance of entrepreneurship
Yeah,
and that sort of, grit that it takes to build something from nothing.
definitely. And Cuban, with his experience on Shark Tank, I mean, he's seen it firsthand so many times.
Exactly. He talks about, you know, meeting these entrepreneurs who are pouring their lives into their businesses and, just the dedication that they have.
It's not just a show for him either. He actually mentioned that, he keeps tabs on a lot of the businesses that he sees on Shark Tank afterwards
Oh, wow.
to see how they're doing, which I thought was really cool. Like, he really is invested in their success.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Klobuchar, she has this really great anecdote about speaking to kids in Milwaukee. And she said she believes that one of them could create the next Nike.
Oh, wow.
So it's that classic American dream idea that anyone, anywhere can achieve incredible things.
But they're not, completely rose-colored glasses about it.
Yeah.
They're also realistic about the challenges that younger generations are facing.
Right, especially when it comes to something like affording a home. I mean, that's a big one.
Huge. And Klobuchar actually outlines a plan to try to tackle this housing crisis.
This is interesting because she talks about increasing housing supply. And she also wants to offer tax credits to developers and home builders.
Okay, so tax credits, what are we thinking here?
Well, think of it as like a financial incentive to encourage a specific action.
Gotcha.
So in this case, it would be to try to motivate more construction and hopefully make housing more affordable.
Makes sense. So it's like a way to kind of jumpstart the process a little bit.
Exactly. And then on top of that, she's proposing this $6,000 tax credit for families with newborns.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Which she says would help with things like childcare costs.
So it sounds like she's trying to hit this from different angles.
Right. It's really a multifaceted approach. She connects this to, economic empowerment, being able to afford childcare to keep working,
Yeah.
but also to achieving some kind of work-life balance, which is something that we all struggle with.
Definitely. And that's something that Cuban actually has some pretty strong opinions about, especially when it comes to Donald Trump. He kind of bluntly says that because Trump inherited his wealth, he doesn't understand the struggles of everyday entrepreneurs who are out there, grinding every day to build their businesses.
Yeah, that's a pretty stark contrast for sure. And this actually leads into their discussion of tariffs, which is something that Cuban feels very strongly about.
He does not hold back at all.
No, he doesn't. He compares Trump to the Grinch, who stole Christmas, because of what tariffs could potentially do to prices, and especially to small businesses.
Now, for people who don't, live and breathe this stuff every day, what are tariffs again?
Right, so tariffs are basically taxes that are imposed on imported goods.
Okay.
And Cuban argues that Trump's approach to tariffs is like using a machete when you really need a scalpel.
Ouch.
It's this idea that it's not precise enough and that it could end up hurting American businesses in the process.
So like collateral damage almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And to kind of put this into perspective, imagine that you own a small bakery
Okay, I love bakeries, so I'm in.
and you use imported chocolate for, your famous truffles or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Suddenly these tariffs come in and the price of that chocolate goes way up.
Oh, no.
So now you have to either raise your prices and potentially drive customers away, or you have to take a hit to your profits.
Yeah, you're in a tough spot either way.
Right. It really highlights how interconnected the global economy is
Yeah.
and how policies can have these ripple effects.
It's like a chain reaction.
Exactly.
And speaking of interconnectedness, another thing that both Cuban and Klobuchar see as absolutely critical for the future is tech innovation.
Absolutely. They both talk about how it can drive economic growth, improve lives, and, it's the key to so many things.
For sure. And Klobuchar especially focuses on the need for strong STEM education so that future generations can be the ones to invent the next big technologies that are going to shape the world.
It's like setting the stage for them to be the next innovators.
Yeah, totally. So what about you? What are some of the emerging technologies that you're most excited about?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, there are so many cool things happening right now. I think I'm personally really interested in the potential of AI
Yeah.
and how it can be used to solve some of these really complex problems, like in healthcare, climate change, all these different areas.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that idea of, making sure the young people have the tools and the education they need to be those future innovators.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But we can't talk about innovation and entrepreneurship without talking about that work-life balance.
Right. Because that can be a
There's
struggle.
a huge struggle for a lot of people.
And Cuban actually acknowledges this too. He says, finding that balance is really tough.
Especially when you're so passionate about what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. You're putting your heart and soul into it.
Yeah.
And he kind of circles back to Klobuchar's tax credit idea here
Okay.
and suggests that, this could give working parents, entrepreneurs, whoever, a little bit of breathing room to maybe create a healthier balance.
So it's not just about the money, it's also about the support system.
Exactly. It's about recognizing all these different challenges that people are facing. And it ties into that, that belief in the power of the human spirit to kind of overcome obstacles.
Yeah. And I mean, we see that in Klobuchar's story about the kids in Milwaukee, right?
Right. It's about believing in that potential.
Exactly. And Cuban sees that all the time on Shark Tank, too. He talks about these entrepreneurs who started with absolutely nothing.
And built these incredible businesses.
Yeah, it's really inspiring. But what do you think are some of the things that hold people back from actually pursuing those dreams?
I mean, I think fear is a big one. Self-doubt. Like we get in our own way sometimes.
For sure. We talk ourselves out of things.
Yeah, exactly. Or we let those feelings paralyze us and we don't take risks. And sometimes it's just a lack of access to resources or support.
Right. Not everyone has the same opportunities.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to create an environment where everyone has a chance to succeed, regardless of their background.
Leveling that playing field.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Cuban and Klobuchar are both pushing for in their own ways, advocating for policies that empower people.
So it's let's remove the barriers, give people the tools, and then watch them soar.
I love that. That's a great way to put it. So as we're wrapping up this deep dive, what are some of the key takeaways that really resonated with you?
I think it's that shared belief in the power of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And the importance of creating opportunities for everybody, and also just that sense of optimism about the future.
Yeah, I agree. I think that optimism is kind of contagious.
It is.
It makes you want to go out there and chase your own dreams.
Totally. And this wasn't just a conversation about policies or business strategies. It was really about sparking that inspiration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So to our listener out there, we challenge you, what is that quote unquote impossible dream that you want to make a reality?
What's that thing you've always wanted to do but you haven't done yet?
Maybe it's starting a business, writing a book, traveling the world. I don't know.
Or just stepping outside of your comfort zone in some way.
Whatever it is, don't let fear hold you back.
Remember those entrepreneurs that Cuban and Klobuchar were talking about?
Remember that grit and determination.
Yeah, and that belief that anyone, even a kid in Milwaukee, can change the world.
So what's your next move?
Yeah, it really is a powerful question. It makes you stop and think.
It does. And it's like they're both saying, innovation doesn't have to come from Silicon Valley or, fancy boardrooms. It can start with an idea.
Just a spark.
Yeah. And that willingness to, actually take action and do something about it.
And they're both great examples of that in their own right.
Totally. I mean, they're not afraid to say what they think,
They challenge the status quo.
Exactly. And that's part of what makes this conversation so interesting.
It really is. It's a good reminder that we all have a voice.
We can make a difference.
Even in small ways. So if there's one thing I hope you take away from this deep dive, it's that, inspiration can come from anywhere.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And sometimes it's, a conversation between a tech billionaire and a senator that sparks that flame.
Exactly. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll be doing a deep dive into your groundbreaking work.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, man, we're talking about one of our listeners someday.
We can't wait to see what you accomplish.
Absolutely.
That's a wrap on this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep chasing those impossible dreams.